year 2020 Company
This
of the Year
meeting is
award,
being recorded.
honoring Zoom's dedication to providing customers with innovative solutions that drive growth and deliver new capabilities. Additionally, earlier this month, we announced the general availability of Zoom Rooms innovations that will help organizations safely re-enter the office and sustain an everywhere workforce. As the safety of employees will continue to be a top priority for organizations around the world, they will likely take a gradual phased approach to bringing employees back to the office full-time. Businesses can use our technology to empower workers wherever they are, streamline collaborations between in-office and remote workers, and also make the transition back into the office as seamless as possible. So whether it's in an office or co-located space or remote location or at home, Zoom's platform enables organizations to put employee health and safety at the center of their strategy without sacrificing privacy and security. As you all know, we continually strive to educate our users on how they can help keep themselves safe and secure on our platform. So recently, February 9th was Safer Internet Day, which provided a great opportunity to emphasize and share some safety best practices on Zoom platform. In observance of this year's theme, Together for a Better Internet, we created some YouTube videos for teachers and parents about online classroom safety and how to create a safe digital learning experience for students and teachers on Zoom platform. With that, I'll now hand it over to Max. Hi, Max.
Hello, thank you, Eric. Thanks for that. Before I dive in, let me say that I'm very pleased with the progress of our end-to-end encryption offering and all the amazing work that that my team has been doing here on this product. And while we're still in phase one of our offering, I'm incredibly excited about what's coming next. So let me walk you through some of the recent end-to-end encryption updates, what we've rolled out, and what we still have planned. First off, we're constantly updating the white paper as part of our commitments to security and transparency. So see our GitHub page for version 3 of the white paper, which was released in December with updates from our phase 1 implementation and more details around phases 2 and 3. As part of the Zoom 5.5 client that was released in January, one-on-one private chats are live in end-to-end encryption mode. These chats use pairwise cryptographic keys, so Zoom and other participants are cryptographically prevented from reading private messages sent between two participants in end-to-end encryption mode. In addition, we've re-enabled meeting reactions in end-to-end encrypted meetings, giving participants the ability to provide real-time non-audio feedback and reactions to information being shared in meetings. We are also continuing to work on extending our end-to-end encryption offering to breakout rooms. We will share an update with that once it's ready, and hopefully that'll be quite soon. With that, I will now hand it over to Velchamy, our President and Product of Engineering.
Hey, thanks, Max. Hello, everyone. So I've been here since June, and we made a lot of progress on the engineering and security side, and pretty proud of what the team has done together, along with our CISO's team as well as Max's team. If you look at our security vision, I think what we are trying to do is how do we build a very scalable and a mature security program? And to do that, I mean, there are different things that we needed to do. One is basically there is training that we need to do. We need to make sure that we have all the processes in place. And then we need to insert all the tools and technologies that are needed. And also how do you scale and how do you automate, etc. So we'll quickly review our SDLC. the process, like what we are using. So every company has its own security development lifecycle. So if you look at ours, I think we have a design phase, and pretty much in every one of these stages, there are checks and balances. I think there is a dedicated owner assigned from a security standpoint, and everything is thought from security and privacy like upfront. And then there is also metrics for all of these. And this is not a one-way process. Actually, we design, build, test, stage, and we go live. But there is continuous monitoring in production as well. And then whatever we do find based on pen test, like third-party testing, or even our bug bounty program, we bring it back to the design stage to see like how did we miss this, like on the design stage, etc. It's sort of a closed loop. We continuously keep improving this, and then like every stage, we are at different level of maturity. But I think there is a lot of progress being made in like all of these areas. And then we'll focus on a couple of areas. Let's go to the next slide. The security architecture. I think our belief is this security architecture is the most important. So you need to actually build everything from the beginning. So otherwise, it's basically fixing things after the fact. So this is a very key area. So you're focusing a lot on this, and make sure that when we design, first of all, the engineers, they're all going through lots and lots of training. And there are embedded teams from security working with engineering. There is security ownership, and make sure that all the designs are signed off. We even have like product managers now that are dedicated to security, in addition to all our security teams. And there are product managers dedicated to privacy as well. So this is where we need to make sure that we start. The rest of it is, if we do a good job here, rest of it is just checkpoints, just to make sure that safety net, to make sure nothing gets loose. And as we mature, I think it'll get, this process will be the key to get us to our vision. Next slide is, and then there is a lot of testing and automation that we do. And in addition to the design, and then we need a lot of these automation as part of our CI/CD. That is because like you want it to be embedded into the process. And we are also trying to make sure that we do all of this, but minimize the overhead. Okay, we still want to be agile. We want to deliver like everything that you want like in time, but we also want to make sure that the security and privacy DNA gets built into that. So there is a lot of tools and automation that we are putting in here. And this is not just the engineering team. This is we have like a security assurance team, like under Jason, and then we have like Max's team focused on a lot of security, plus the engineering team. So a lot of good work going on here. And thanks everyone for attending this session. Let me just hand it over to our head of healthcare, Ron Emerson.
All right, thank you very much, Vilchami. So first of all, it's great to be here with everyone in this webinar. Just a little bit about my background. I've worked in the healthcare industry for over 2 decades, and I've actually had an opportunity to go to 46 different countries to enable telemedicine applications or video-based applications. So regardless of where you're viewing this video from around the world, it's a real pleasure to have you here today and to be able to speak with you. So it's been an honor to lead Zoom's healthcare offering. Of course, it's even become more crucial in our healthcare customers around the world, as we've had to rely on telemedicine more heavily during this, as we'd all agree, this unprecedented pandemic that we're currently in. I think what's important and what we're here to talk about is, at Zoom, we're continuously expanding and enhancing our platform to help our healthcare customers, so you can operate and do more things and do it more efficiently with the Zoom platform in healthcare. So let's talk about this Zoom for healthcare. The pandemic has certainly accelerated the trend, but video was already becoming a necessary component in the delivery of healthcare, especially as we're developing different delivery models and different payment systems. But it's not just for innovating care delivery, but it's also expanding access to care. We'd all agree and know that there's a correlation between access to care and quality of care. And an enhanced real-time video communication that connects the entire ecosystem. So how do we bring in touch all of those different points across the continuum of care, including doctors, nurses, patients, of course, administrators for everyday utilization, even insurance companies, and all the peripheral vendors that work across the healthcare system. We also look at the Zoom platform as a key component for population wellness, and we can ensure remote and rural communities get equal access regardless of where you're at. Our unified communication platform is playing an absolutely critical role during the pandemic, as we've spoken about, especially by use of direct-to-consumer telemedicine, but a variety of other applications. And it's going to continue to play a major role as providers embrace both a hybrid model for working together, as well as a hybrid model of care that emphasizes patients' treatments where they are. So we expect even even after the pandemic, we're going to, as providers are used to telemedicine, patients are used to telemedicine. It's going to become a new normal as far as how we can provide care, and healthcare professionals can be anywhere and provide care to their patients. So as healthcare providers look to deploy and expand their telehealth networking capabilities, Zoom for Healthcare, we're well positioned to meet their needs and ensure that you remain compliant. And that's what we're here to talk about today, is with the relevant regulations. So let's talk a little bit about Zoom Communication Healthcare Platform and sort of the multi-purpose use of the platform across the healthcare enterprise, which a lot of organizations are taking advantage of. The platform, the Zoom Healthcare Platform offering, it can be deployed in a range, sort of a range of ways to meet the diverse needs of healthcare customers, from just everyday healthcare administration for collaboration, as you can see, medical education, that would be educating doctors to maintain their medical knowledge, internal trainings, wellness and prevention to educate patients. The number of telemedicine applications, that could be what we call direct to consumer, where you're any location on your phone speaking to a clinician, or it can be diagnostic telemedicine, where you plug medical devices into the computer and you can look in an ear and otoscope, listen to heart and lung sounds, run a stethoscope through the Zoom platform, and these type of things. So it's all about, based on the application need, being able to provide that, but also just patient-centered care offerings, because we're seeing a shift away from just providing direct care of doctors seeing patients, but the entire care team being involved. So during the pandemic alone, our solutions have helped to provide education, preventive care for high-risk populations, improve care and capabilities in rural areas, and sort of bridge that geographic gap. And we can also do that with limited broadband connectivity, and provide behavioral mental health services, I think, which has been a real challenge all along. It's always a challenge in access issues, but I think during COVID, of course, we've all seen, it's become a bigger issue given the circumstances, and we can do that with one-on-one or group settings. And then, of course, and allow patients to join from their homes. Just immediate coordination and as well as real-time assessment of disaster preparedness and response is also very important by using video technology in the Zoom platform. And I think what's also big is reduce travel and provide cost-effective continuing education and training for healthcare professionals. How do we do less with more? There's a maldistribution of healthcare professionals in larger centers of excellence in larger cities. And there's also that geographic gap. So, it's more efficient to move information than it is people. And, that's the whole premise of why video has been so successful. And of course, during the actual pandemic. So let's just talk a little bit about Zoom's partners in healthcare. Zoom for Healthcare helps clinicians and other healthcare providers provide the highest quality care across the organization. And that previous slide is important, is the multi-purpose use. So you can have one platform and you can use it for a variety of applications to meet your needs. This is just a snapshot of some of the leading organizations that we partner with, many of whom have testimonials and case studies. I'd advise you to go on our website, where you can learn more about their experiences and more about the platform and best practices, and actually some case studies. And just like you, these organizations and many others around the world, they choose Zoom for many reasons. But of course, one of those is HIPAA compliance and looking at security and privacy. So first of all, as I said, we have an internationally, we have a lot of different folks watching this. So let's just talk about what HIPAA is, if you're not familiar with it, and why is it important. HIPAA is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, which was developed in 1996. And it's a United States federal law that lays out privacy and security standards that protect the confidentiality of protected health information, all right, which we call PHI. They're national standards to protect sensitive patient health information from being disclosed without the patient's consent or knowledge, okay? And so how does Zoom meet that HIPAA compliance? Zoom, of course, went through a high-level reviews, and our HIPAA attestation was performed by an independent third-party auditor that reviewed the affirmed that Zoom implements the controls needed to secure protected health information according to the requirements of the HIPAA security rule, breach notifications, and the privacy rule. Zoom is responsible for the administrative, technical, and physical safeguards that prevent against any authorized access. for protected health information in the Zoom environment. So in the course of providing services to healthcare customers, the Zoom platform and Zoom phone enables HIPAA compliance to covered entities. Okay, so covered entities is you as the healthcare organization, and Zoom is the actual business associate. In provision and operating the Zoom HIPAA services, Zoom complies with the provisions of the HIPAA security rule that are required and applicable as a business associate. So let's take another step and dig a little deeper. What is a BAA, a business associate agreement? So another term you're going to hear in connection with Zoom for Healthcare is the business associate agreement. And this is actually a legal contract that describes how business associates, which is the actual organization that Zoom is managing their patient health information, or subcontractor business associates, which is what Zoom is for the healthcare customer, how we adhere to HIPAA, along with the responsibilities and risks they take in providing services to its healthcare customers. So a BAA does need to be in place for the covered entity or business associates that wish to place protected health information or PHI in Zoom's platform. I think one of the good things, though, is that no manual configuration needs to occur to enable feature enhancements. Zoom's HIPAA offering, it allows its healthcare customers to leverage the Zoom platform while stay maintaining privacy, security, and compliance. Just one last thing that I'm really proud to announce is, Zoom, we know it's important to be able to reach across the continuum of care, regardless if you're listening and you're in a small practice as a single provider, maybe a federally qualified health center or rural health clinic, all of the different things. But we recognize that you need the same access to the tools that large centers of excellence do. So what Zoom has done is we've actually are expanding access to the Zoom healthcare. And for those of you that are familiar with us, we've actually removed the $200 minimum that was previously required to obtain a business associate agreement. And we have an automated process now. If you go to Zoom Healthcare, you can get 1 through 9 license where you can automatically, through an automated process, get a BAA. We've also enhanced our features with the platform for our healthcare customers to leverage more Zoom platform features. So you get Zoom Phone, you can use our cloud, which is our cloud voice over IP phone solution, the ability to access cloud recordings and administrator the dashboards and reports, and in-meeting persistence chat. So basically, the entire platform is covered under the business associate agreement. And with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Hillary. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Ron. We're now going to open up the webinar for Q&A. So let's jump to the questions. The first question is for you, Velchamy. Which stage of the SDLC do you think is the most important?
I think it is the design stage. I think I briefly mentioned it in my session as well. I think if you don't address the design stage, then you're always chasing problems. I think you need to make sure that design is good, and then all the remaining stages are basically checks and balances.
Great.
Thanks, Hillary.
And here's another question, potentially for you, Brendan. My company needs to discuss sensitive, confidential content in our Zoom meetings. Does Zoom have any protections to prevent people from recording and linking the content?
That's a great question, and we actually have a number of features on that front. So we have our visual watermark, for example, that when turned on, will put identifying information on the screen if someone were to capture an image of the meeting. But then we also have our audio watermarking feature that if someone were to record that session, we have the ability to help identify who did that recording. So between the audio watermark and the visual watermark, you have a way to track if someone were to record that in an unauthorized manner.
Yeah, and also Hillary, I'd like to add on to what Brandon said. Also, my favorite feature also is for the very sensitive meetings. In addition to protecting those meeting content, but also you can enable the meeting registration feature, right? Meaning every participant can get a unique link, right? That is a pretty cool feature as well for some very sensitive meetings. By the way, it's also you can enable E2E as well. Max also here. So yeah.
That's great. And Ron, a question for you. Does the Zoom healthcare team have any predictions for telemedicine, and how has the COVID pandemic impacted that?
That's an interesting question. So I think just some of the data when you look pre-COVID, for those we know this from self-insured employers and through insurance companies. For those that actually had access to be able to see their clinician or their doctor, over their own device. The user rate was less than 3%. Out of necessity, of course, during COVID, some of those numbers, outpatient visits were up to 70 to 90%. So now that physicians and patients, as I said earlier, are familiar with it, if you look at some of the data out there, a lot of organizations and just some anecdotal data and some of the studies, they predict that 15 to 30% of actual outpatient visits would be done virtually. So it's definitely had an impact on the way that care delivery is going to be provided.
Super. And we have a question from Nancy. She would like to know, how can I quickly get rid of meeting disruptors?
Happy to jump in on that one. So the best tool that we have available is the Security Shield, which will be on that bottom toolbar, which you have the ability to immediately remove folks from the meeting, as well as file reports, or in a meeting, if you like the ability to pause it for a moment while responding to that, all that's available off of that Security Shield icon.
And also we published several blogs last year, right? Maybe you can go to our blog website, a lot of features and you can enable, right? Lock the meeting, the password, the waiting room, and the meeting registration. A lot of features can really help you to make sure those disruptors, they cannot enter your meeting. Yeah.
Great. And what is engineering's biggest security accomplishment since the Zoom boom?
I'll take that. So I think there are a lot of accomplishments. One is basically we talked about like E2E, and then one is Brendan just talked about the whole security shield. So there is we have made security so easy to use for an end user, and that's something we took a lot of effort on. And then I briefly talked about the whole SDLC process. So we're looking at what is on the front end for you, what is useful for you, and then on the back end as well, like what we are doing to make sure that the product and service is completely secure. I would look at those three as some of the major areas of accomplishments. Eric, you want to add anything?
Yeah, so you are so right. I think the Max, the team, did a great job, right, to enable E2E, E2E feature, right? It's very important. In addition to those three things, I also want to say one thing behind the scene. You may not see that is, we shared our source code with quite a few third-party vendors to double check, triple check, the security, privacy from a source code level, right? That's also something that's very important and critical to our the code, security, and also make sure there's any potential privacy and security issues as well. Again, a lot of efforts behind the scene to really help us.
Yeah. And Eric, people are wondering, does Zoom sell user data?
No, absolutely not. So we're not an advertisement company. So we do have free users, but they also have paid subscribers, mainly focused on the enterprise business customers. Prior to the pandemic crisis, we never ever wanted to go into the advertisement business. So no, we never. Yeah.
Great. And here's an interesting question about people going back to the offices after COVID. So you spoke about supporting a safe return to office buildings. How are you thinking about security and privacy with things like virtual secretaries or the people counter tool?
Randy, you want to take that?
Definitely. So, I mean, when we look at any of our features, we're always looking at, how to do it in a safe and secure manner. And we're excited about some of those features, such as the virtual secretary when you walk into the building and are able to be greeted by a Zoom room. We actually have a wonderful blog post on this topic and a lot of the items that we are doing on that front.
Great. Anyone else want to add anything, or I'll go to the next question?
Yeah, also just quickly, so as we are re-entering the office, we do work together with our customers and partners and listen to their feedback and to try to add those features quickly, because again, it's something new, right? How to support the hybrid working place, right? Is something very new, and any feedback, from our customers and partners, we very, welcome, and then we can quickly innovate to add those features based on feedback to our product.
Great. And Ron, we have another healthcare question for you. where do you see Zoom having the most impact in all segments of healthcare?
That's a great question. I think, when you look at healthcare globally, we're moving away from just what we would call sick care, right? When you're basically sick, you see the provider. And, that's still going to be a very important component, of course, of healthcare, and Zoom plays a key part of that, and it will continue to play a key part in that. But it's also about how do we reach across what we call the continuum of care. When you're in healthcare, you think of the continuum of care from the home to the entry point, which is the physician office, to maybe a smaller hospital. Then if they can't manage it there, they go to the larger. Zoom does a great job of being able to reach outside. We're a great enterprise solution, and we're being used by some of the biggest healthcare systems around as far as the enterprise solution. But we also are very good about reaching outside of the walls of the enterprise. So we're going to be used as we shift the model from just doctors being the one who sees the patient, the care team will. And to do that, you have to be able to reach across the continuum of care. So the patient's home, to skilled nursing facilities, to primary care, and having all of those increased touch points is what's going to give us sort of what we call population-based health. And we see Zoom as a key point, and well equipped to be able to provide that in the future as we see that shift and the incentives away from just doctors seeing patients to population-based health.
Super interesting. And Max, we have an encryption question for you. How does the new end-to-end encryption affect the speed of the Zoom meeting from device to device, if any?
That's a great question. We've really observed no changes of speed and performance in terms of encryption. All Zoom meetings are encrypted, whether using enhanced encryption or end-to-end encryption. And so if anything, that would be the expensive part, and that really isn't very expensive at all, as we can tell, because we use Zoom and it performs very well every day. For end-to-end, there is an additional step of a key exchange when the meeting starts or when participants enter and leave the meeting. And that's when you would see it, if anything. But according to our measurements, you can't even tell the difference. And so, it might be a little bit of a historical artifact for people to think that encryption is slow, but with modern processors and modern encryption, it's actually extremely fast, and we don't expect anyone to notice it.
Cool. And Sue wrote in with a question: is there a way to limit geographical areas a user can connect a meeting from?
Happy to jump in on this one. And yes, we do have the ability in your meeting settings to actually say which countries that people can join your meeting from. And you can either do an allow list to say people can only join from this part of the world, or explicitly say, I do not want individuals to be able to join from certain parts of the world, so that you have flexibility depending on the security posture you want for your meeting or session.
Great. And I like this question. I'm a security engineer. What values or qualities are you looking for in future employees? Do you have any tips for applying?
I can take that because I do spend a fair amount of time interviewing people, and we welcome your application. So please, there are definitely openings on our job portal. So check those out. For security engineering, we really like to see that people have a good basic understanding of the cryptographic primitives that you would use when building a secure application. We want them to think about other ways for you to detect or potentially avoid security problems in writing everyday code that isn't related to security. And sometimes that's when things happen, that sometimes non-security related code can have a security bug in it. So you don't only focus on security code when you're trying to make a secure application. And we often like to know, what's your understanding of how security is changing. I mean, every week we see different news reports and different types of attacks that are available, and we have to be aware of those to know, are we doing the right things to protect against them? So these are the types of things we hear about, and obviously just a passion for this technology is really important too, because we feel really strongly that by incorporating this technology in Zoom, we're really providing a very valuable service to our users, and we'd like for people to feel good and as passionate as we do about providing that.
Any other feedback from Velchamy or Eric or Brendan? Now we can just go to the next question.
Yeah, I think Max covered it pretty well. But we are also looking for regular engineers with a lot of security background as well. So we just want to make sure that pretty much all our engineers are either trained or we have engineers that actually have the product knowledge, but also a good solid security foundation.
That's a great point, Velchami. I forgot to mention that my team, we're always doing interviews, and sometimes just to expand our own team, but often to help other teams, and just to make sure that the candidates who are coming into Zoom have a good understanding of security matters that might not be obvious in terms of the job description.
Great.
That's nice.
And is Zoom doing a CISO council this year? Maybe Max or Brendan, you could answer that.
Definitely. So we have had the CISO Council, and that CISO Council is continuing, and we've been very appreciative of the feedback that we have received from that council, and look forward to the continued engagement.
Great.
So we do have weekly meetings with the CISO council members. So it's an ongoing, and I think when we talked about all the security accomplishments, maybe this is something that we should have mentioned as well. A lot of these, we have these advisors that are helping us as well.
Great. And someone was asking, where can I find your security white papers? I can actually answer this. In January, we recently launched our Trust Center. And so it's a one-stop shop for all our security, privacy, trust and safety resources. That includes FAQs, white papers, and we're going to keep building it out to make it as robust and helpful as possible. So definitely check out our Zoom Trust Center for information like that. And here's a question. We use Zoom in our retirement community for weekly help sessions to demo program settings, etc. Are there any limitations on screen sharing to be aware of?
Great question with respect to how our screen sharing works. The one thing to be aware of with screen sharing in Zoom is, as a security and privacy feature, by default, if you are sharing your screen and a Zoom window is up, we do not share the Zoom window. So if you are doing sessions to show people how to use Zoom, there is a setting that you would need to change to be able to show your Zoom window in a meeting. But beyond that, in terms of screen sharing, if you are sharing it on your screen, we generally allow that to be shared through the Zoom session.
Great. And for meeting disruptions, what about a simple emergency button to pause the meeting?
So that is a feature that we recently released, and that is available under the Security Shield on that bottom toolbar to basically pause the meeting.
Great. And this question, I need to host a public meeting, but I'm worried about meeting disruptions. What are your tips for preventing this?
So on that one, if it is a public meeting, we highly recommend using an option such as our webinar product, the option that we're actually using today. Whereas you can see, you have a public group that's available, but there are options such as the Q&A, which we're using today for questions that come up. And you can always promote a member of the audience into the panelist role so that they can be on screen. They can speak in that, but generally they would be in a view-only mode to help prevent that meeting disruption. It's that nice balance of allowing participation, but also having the fine-grained controls in the session.
Great. And if a meeting participant chooses not to agree with the recording, what happens?
So right now, if someone chooses not to be recorded in a session, because a meeting is a mix of audio and video, we offer the option for them to leave that session at the moment.
Makes sense. Great. And Brendan, I'll give you a break. Thanks for answering all those questions. And here's a fun question. We had several people write in about the lawyer cat filter incident. And so people would like to know, how do I use filters without ending up like the unfortunate lawyer cat?
I think Eric is the expert on that.
No, I'm not an expert. First of all, I know for sure I'm not a cat. So and I'm live here. So anyway, so we do have a blog, right? So feel free, right? So go to look at a blog, how to enable those filter features, how to disable, how to use the virtual camera, and a lot of flexibility, right? For sure, you can, disable those features. Yeah.
Great. We also had a fun question, Eric, that I'd like to ask. Why did you name the company Zoom?
First of all, I'm pretty sure this has no relationship with privacy and security.
Okay,
So,
that's true. Okay, we'll save that for another one.
Again, the name not for me, actually, from one of our advisors. So, and it's pretty catchy, So that's we like that name. So.
Great. And LJ wrote in with a question. Will we ever be able to use different passwords for different meetings? I don't like that when I set a specific password for a meeting, it then makes that the password for all meetings.
So I'm happy to jump in on that one. So right now with the product, if you set a password for your personal meeting ID, your PMI, that password will apply to all meetings where you use your PMI. However, when you schedule a meeting, you can choose to not use your PMI, which will actually create a new random meeting number. And along with that, you can define distinct settings specific for that meeting. And that can be a distinct password, but that can also be other settings, whether that's enabling waiting room, changing the registration settings, or a number of the other features that we've mentioned. So highly recommend when scheduling, taking a look at that option of maybe not using your PMI if you want to have unique settings for that particular meeting.
Yeah, also just quickly, normally I use the PMI for my internal meetings and always use one-time meeting ID for my external meetings because my teammates always know my PMI. So yeah.
Great. And here's a question. I use the paid Zoom platform. I see patients on Zoom. Is it secure enough for me to see them and maintain full security and confidentiality?
Yeah, this is Ron. I can take that one. Yes, as long as you're the one who actually has, associated with the business associate agreement, as long as you're the one who actually has the healthcare account, any of those that you connect to will have the same security and privacy that you do. So the answer is yes.
Wonderful. And a question from Cindy, is Zoom going to be able to offer RTMPS data transfer?
So in terms of that, this is a protocol that is used for streaming to third-party services. And yes, Zoom does have the ability to support RTMP as well as RTMPS. We have native integrations with a number of platforms, as well as the ability to set a custom streaming URL so that you can stream to any platform that supports RTMP or RTMPS.
Great. It looks like we have time for maybe one or two more questions. Let's see. This is a question from Kim. How do we get people to join from abroad?
I'm happy to jump in on this one. So part of the power of the Zoom platform is our global network. And so with a join link, folks can join from anywhere in the world to the Zoom platform using whatever device that is available to them, be that computer, mobile, room systems. We also have a global network of telephone numbers. Our focus is to be able to connect people worldwide. So we offer a range of opportunities and pathways to do that.
Super. And we have a question asking to share the video that Eric mentioned for teachers using Zoom securely for Safer Internet Day. Hopefully they can, the Zoom team can drop that in the chat. You can also find it on the Zoom YouTube. And for the final question, it's a simple one. Can you tell us more about On Zoom?
Chami, do you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. I think, one of the things that we started, like Zoom has been like an enterprise service pre-COVID, and through COVID, we've seen multitude of use cases. I think Zoom is being used for like yoga classes. Zoom has been used for like training classes. There is a lot of these other use cases, which basically have grown through this period. I think what we are trying to do with the on-Zoom is like enable those type of use cases, what is needed for them to be successful. So if you're a yoga instructor and you want to do this on Zoom, like how can Zoom help us, etc. So that is the fundamental of like what we are trying to do there. It's more like a marketplace for you. If you have skills, like how do you actually either show your skills? It could be for free or it could be for paid, etc. And we are seeing how Zoom can actually build all the foundations. And then Eric, you want to add?
No, that's great. I think just some of you, if you never experienced the on-Zoom platform, just to go to on-Zoom and to try to join some yoga class or maybe a cooking class. I did join once. It's pretty enjoy that. Yeah.
And one of the things we have also learned through this is there are some businesses that we got direct feedback. Some of the businesses, they thought they're going to be completely shut down with COVID. Now they realize they've expanded the marketplace beyond their local geography. Now they have like an international audience, and they don't even plan to come back to the local office going forward. So those are some of the opportunities that we see for our on-Zoom customers. And you should definitely go try out some of the classes and maybe become a host and do some of your sessions as well.
Wonderful. Well, we're almost at time. Thank you for everyone for joining us today. Eric, Velchamy, any parting words before we go?
Yeah, I would like to say for all the participants, for today's webinar, I truly appreciate for greater support and trust. Welcome your feedback. We'll do all we can to keep delivering happiness to you, to focus on our privacy and security, and see you next month. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, everyone.